guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about temperature blankets. I don't know if these are like as popular this year as they were last year, because I know in, what year are we in? 2022 I did my first blanket and I feel like a lot of people were doing them. 2023 was like everyone who finished their 2022 one wanted to do this one. And the people who were like, this is not for me, just didn't. And I don't know the state of like who's making temperature blankets this year, but I am, because I had an idea basically. I wasn't originally going to this year because like halfway through the year I might be in a different city, so that's like, well, what temperatures do you use? I'm just gonna split it, like there'll be a line, and I've just come to terms with that. So that's what I'm gonna do, but I still wanted to do it because I saw a picture on, I was like trying to think of ways to change up what I was doing, because I was kind of sick of doing a row every day, but I didn't want to do a granny square because they're not my favorite things. I'll show you last year's in a sec, is literally huge granny squares, but doing like individual granny squares kind of gives me a headache. So I wanted to do something different, but not boring. I don't know. So I saw one picture on Pinterest that showed this, and I'm hoping it's not super popular, and I think I'm like insanely original, and I'm not, but I'm gonna do a puff flower for every single day. The second part of my thought process was I needed to be way smaller, because last year's, again, we'll show you this, like, it's so big. I haven't even been able to film a video of the whole thing yet because it's been like rainy and cloudy and ugly in Texas, and I need to be outside to show you how big last year's temperature blanket was. So we're downsizing quite a bit this year. It'll be more like a lap blanket, sit on the couch or something, in the car maybe, but definitely not like a huge thing, and I'm okay with that, especially because I want it to be portable, or more portable I should say. So anyway, this video is going to be my plans for this year, kind of a little bit showing you me getting started, and then also any tips I have, because I don't know, I've done this for 2 years now. I feel like I've acquired a few tips to make it a little easier, if that is that. Yeah, so heading straight into the planning part of it, because I have kind of started it before, and I just wanted to show y'all real quick before I get really too into it. Actually, just kidding, I need to show you my blanket from last year. Here's my twin size bed, and here is like a quarter of the blanket. I think that's January, February, then March, April and May. I cannot do directions behind me, wow. But yeah, it's huge. If I have a picture by the time I edit this, I'll insert it, but I don't think I will, because I don't know when I'm gonna go outside and take a picture. But again, working on it. Okay, so like I said, I saw a picture of some puff flower blankets, and I saw a temperature blanket one, and it was like a process picture. I didn't even look to see if the person who had finished it, but I was like, oh, okay, this is what I'm doing now. Great. Again, we'll insert the picture if I can find it. I've literally, for some reason, it's so hard to find on Pinterest, but I think I saved it last time. But anyways, to make this applicable to me, I did not know how to make puff flowers, so I had to look that up real quick. It's actually super simple. So I made my little tester one, which looks very orangey, but I promise it's like a tan color. Can you see that? It's tan. And the reason it's tan is this is going to be like my border color, so I'm going to have all the colors for the temperatures, and then I'm going to have one tan one in between each month, because I like how in my squares from last year, it's like each month is separate. In the first blanket I made, it was just rows all the way down, and I didn't do an indicator for the months, and you can like get an idea of what time of year it was, but I want to be able to be like, oh, look how it was in January, etc., etc. So I have this, and the reason I'm doing this yarn is because part of 2024 is I'm destashing my yarn, and I have a lot of this tan Caron Simply Soft, and it doesn't even look like Caron Simply Soft because it's old, but it is. So I was like, okay, I'm using this for my temperature blanket, duh, and I need to use a lot of it. So that meant for all my colors, I had to use Caron Simply Soft this year. So these are the colors I'm going with this year. As you can see, it is like based off of temperature. You can see the warm and cool, but to me they're like, I don't know what they're called. I think, is it jewel tones or something, where it's not quite like primary colors, but it's, you can tell what they are representing, like hot and cold and stuff. And again, with the destashing, I had 2 brand new ones of the orange and yellow, and I don't even remember why I bought them, but I was like, okay, let's get rid of these 2 as well. So I had to kind of get colors that went with them and still kind of, I didn't want them to be primary colors. So that brings in these 3, which I'm very happy with. Because I know kind of how Texas temperatures play out now, I also didn't want to be wasteful. So I changed the brackets of temperatures that I would usually do, like 20 to 30, 30 to 40. I just didn't want to do that because, again, Texas is crazy. So I changed it up a little bit and I bought yarn accordingly. So I do high temperatures of the day. I don't do a low temperature. I'm just not that. I think if I tried to do 2 colors a day, I would have stopped, but I kept myself at just the high temperatures. I feel like it's the most accurate portrayal of like how you would remember a day. Like, you remember the hottest part, the middle of the day, whatever. So because it's so hot in Texas and so often not a high temperature of like 42, this year I'm doing 0 to 55 a high for the day as one color, and then in 15-degree increments after that, all the way to 100 plus is its own color. Because I remember the first year I did it, I think in like May, I switched from doing 99 plus or like 90 to 100 plus as one color because there were so many 100 plus days I wasn't expecting. There was like too much of the color, so I had to split it up into a new color, which was exciting. So yeah, if you don't know where you live temperature acts throughout the year, you have never paid attention, just do probably in groups of 10, so you'll have more colors than me. I also just didn't want to have to keep buying yarn for little amounts, so I kind of had that knowledge to kind of adjust how I needed it to, and that's, yeah. So I'm using Caron Simply Soft is the main thing, and I'm also using a 5mm hook because that's the hook that the tutorial for this flower says, and I made the tester and it works fine, so I'm not going to change that at all. You saw me buying yarn in the beginning. I didn't speak in that little vloggy clips because I didn't want to. I was at the place that I work. I just wanted to videotape what I was buying, and I did. But the next part that you need to do is the math. That's something I did not do last year. I did not think, oh, if you do 32 rows of a granny square with a worsted weight yarn and a 4mm hook, it's gonna be huge. No, I did not think it would be that big. So this time I made this first and I measured this. It's about 2 inches across, and then I now have a actual math plan because they're also like individuals. I need to know when the row is gonna stop. So I did, and I came up with, let's see, where did I write it down? I'm going to do 17 flowers of the temperature color of the days, 17 flowers across, and then I'll do again the brown flower in between each month, so that won't matter really. You'll see it no matter where it is in the blanket. If I do move cities, there'll be a brown line all the way across the blanket. So I don't really know how to explain it because the flowers don't make super straight lines, but it'll be like, even if it looks kind of like this because it's uneven, I'm gonna do that line just for my sanity. And then I'm going to do one brown flower all the way around the blanket at the very end. So how do I explain this? It'll be 21 flowers across, and so 19 flowers across, about 38 inches, so just over 3 feet. And then I think it was 21 rows down. That could be wrong. I did not do the math very well. Also take into account 2024 is a leap year. So there's 366 days, which even with 365 days, the math was not working for the size of the blanket I wanted to make. But there's 366 days. and I think it was 21 flowers down, like 17 by 21 minus the border. But again, could be wrong. Please do not fact check me on that because I could be very wrong. But that is my plan for now. Hopefully I don't lose this paper. So the final thing that I need to do for planning wise is my little, I don't know what to call it. I think it's called a key, but I made one last year and of course I've lost it now, but it was really helpful in the first few weeks, months, because I would forget the intervals of degrees I made. So I made mine out of a scrap of cardboard last year and I'm going to do the same thing. So I have cardboard here. I'm going to write down what yarn I'm using, what hook I'm using, and the intervals, and then I will show y'all later in 5 minutes when I'm done making it. So we're 4 days in and I already made a mistake. It's adorable, but I have it so like the two side petals, I guess, are connecting and then I have one on top, and I didn't do that. I should have connected this one to these two petals, not these two. And I did not realize till I literally just cut the knot. So I'm gonna have to cut this out and re-sew it, and I have to do it really carefully because of course it's in the same color. Like this one, if I had to cut it, would be easy because I sewed it with the green. It's like blue, but this is all the same color. So I'm going to cut it off and fix it when I get home later because I need to get ready for work. But yeah, otherwise it's adorable. I love my little flowers. Yesterday was a high of 56, so it got the second color. So that's what the first 4 days will look like. And then I guess later when I get home, I'll see what today's high was because it's 3 o'clock. It might not have happened yet, so we'll continue this later. So it's been many hours. Don't mind my Grinch sweater. I love the Grinch year-round, so I don't care that it's January. Hello, that's my dog. I did fix the flowers and I added today's flower as well. So, oh, it's just so cute. I'm actually so happy with this. This is what it looks like so far. Again, this is the border one, so the first 5 days look like this. And yeah, that's that. So now I'm gonna go through real quickly my tips for starting a blanket. My first tip is to plan out your blanket. It's really hard to keep going if you're having to like troubleshoot all year long. So for me, I would rather like for this, I started on the 5th. I would rather take my time, think of what I want to do, how I want to do it, all this, instead of starting right on the 1st and then like making a mistake that's I can't fix. If you're better than me, you'll take the last few days of the year to do it for the next year, but I didn't do that. I took the first few days of the year, and that's okay. You do not have to start your blanket right on the 1st. Take time to plan it out and it'll be more enjoyable throughout the year. Tip number 2 is do something you're not going to get bored of. One of the problems with my first blanket was I literally did, I think, rows of 200 single crochet. I think it was 200. That sounds right to me. Do you know how incredibly boring that is? That's why, I mean, I got so far behind sometimes. I eventually caught up, but then it took forever to catch up because I was doing like literally the smallest stitch, the most simple, boring. It was not good. So that's why also I'm changing it every year because I can't imagine doing granny squares again. Like that would make it boring for me. So just do something you either really know you really like or think you won't get bored of, or not too difficult, because if you make it too difficult, you're not going to do it, period. So think about what stitch and pattern you're going to be doing. Third thing, which I guess is important very important to me, I don't know, is think about what materials you're using, what yarn you're going to be using. You're making a whole blanket and you probably are going to have to rebuy yarn. Think about your budget. I've seen some people make temperature blankets with like hand-dyed wool yarn. That boggles my mind because that is like my fancy special occasion gift to myself yarn. The thought of making an entire blanket with wool yarn, having to hand wash it, like babysit it, is very stressful for me. So I won't do that. And it's not anything against wool yarn. I like some wools for nice things, but if I'm making a blanket, I want to be able to use it, take it places, wash it, etc. That's why I use acrylic yarn, and I don't want to hear anything about acrylic yarn at all. I like it, especially for stuff like this. I made a blanket with Red Heart yarn, and I've washed it like twice now, and it's only gotten softer with washes, so I'm perfectly fine. And like acrylic yarn is nice because you can put it in the washing machine on like a gentle cycle, cool dry it, and it is fine. You don't have to babysit it, you don't have to worry about it, and that's it. So, and it's also cheaper. I don't even know the math, but it's gonna be, if you're worried about like the cost of a temperature blanket, getting acrylic yarn is going to be a lot cheaper than anything else. So think about your materials first and foremost, I think, when you're planning out your blanket. Okay, try not to get too tangent-y. This is my last tip, is to not get too far behind. It's so hard to catch up. I've been like a month and a half behind on my blanket, and it's so hard to catch up. So even if you have to like take time like every week to make sure you're caught up, every few days, if you get to, I mean, I'm not saying like if you get a month behind, give up, but it's harder to get back into it, and like you don't want to continue if you get super far behind. So I would just try to stay caught up. I know we're all busy, but try to stay caught up. What also I think helps with like the organization part of it is keep all of your temperature blanket supplies separate. So I have my little basket. This has all my blanket on my blanket. All the yarn for this blanket is in this bag. I'm gonna be putting this straight into this basket. If it gets too big, I'll eventually put it somewhere else. But for now, the flowers are just gonna go straight in the basket. The hook I'm using is gonna go straight into this basket. I have my own hook for my blanket. That's also really helpful, is to have a hook set aside for the blanket, and then like your other projects, that way you won't lose it, you won't worry about it, it's all gonna be in here, and that way it's just organized and in one central spot. That is pretty much all I have to say about temperature blankets. I really like them. I hope y'all, if you crochet, are thinking about making one this year. And you also don't have to do temperature, you can do like mood, I've seen people do. What else have people done? I don't really, that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head, but there's definitely like other things you can track the whole year, which I think is really fun. I just like having long projects, like something to do every day. I like having something to track every day. I like the little monthly updates, so that's what I like to do. But yeah, that is everything I've got on that. If you've watched the whole thing, thank you for being here. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok, subscribe here. I guess you could also follow me on Pinterest. I don't go on there. I don't do much on Pinterest, but I've got a little bit of pictures on there. Do all that. Any information that's like helpful that I mentioned in here, I'm going to be putting below. The flower tutorial, the website I use for my dates, all that will be in the description. And yeah, I will see y'all next time. I'm very excited to see how the year goes. So I will see y'all next time. Have a good day. Bye.